Okay. So, good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to this session again for the third time. It's my pleasure. So, today we'll be discussing about assessment and feedback, its role in the process of development.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, excuse me. Can you wait for 2 minutes, ma'am?
Okay. I can do it.
Yes. Raghotaman sir, you can start.
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. I will start, sir. Good afternoon to all. Thanks for the opportunity to deliver a speech regarding our speaker. Today afternoon session will be handled by Dr. Atasi Mohanty ma'am, Assistant Professor, Center of Educational Technology, IIT Kharagpur, West Bengal, India. She has experted in area of research and teaching interested educational psychology, curriculum pedagogy, teacher education and professional development, human resource development, positive mental health and well-being, psychology of learning, education for sustainable development, educational leadership, HR and sustainability. She has published more than 25 international journals and published book chapters and articles 9 related to psychology of higher education. She has published 14 international research and review papers. She has proceedings 4 full papers in international conferences such as peer collaboration, facilitator invention and learning styles in computer game-based learning, initial findings from an empirical studies in the proceedings of the 5th European Conference on Game-Based Learning, October 2011. Managing diversity in educational sector in the Knowledge Globalization Conference, January 2012. Sexuality and subjective well-being in the 4th International Conference on Integrating Speciality and Organizational Leadership, January 2013. How quality of work and life has been pursued by Indian employees in the International Conference on Gender and Attractive Work, Sweden, India meet on strategic thinking, November 2013. And under her guidance, 6 PhD holders completed and 2 ongoing projects now completed the ICSSR project on a multi-sensory and ICT-based invention program for removing specific learning difficulties among children, June 2013 to June 2016. And a research topic under her PhD scholars are impact of teacher competence and teaching effectiveness on students' achievement as measured through different evaluation strategy. The second one, the effect of early invention.
You can minimize this thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, ma'am. And next, and her review and delivery courses are reviewed IEEE papers on educational technology and reviewed NPTEL video courses on international business communication, 40 video lecturers, and review NPTEL web courses on international business communication, 40 chapters, designed and delivered NPTEL mock courses on educational leadership, launched online since 2014, July 2017. Presently working on educational psychology, learning and pedagogy, online teaching and its impact, mocks, education for sustainable development, HR and sustainability. Oh, doctor, and I request hand over the session to our honorable speaker to deliver her valuable speech, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaliappan and Dr. Basim. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all of you. So for the third
education for sustainable development, HR and sustainability. Oh, doctor, and I request hand over the session to our honorable speaker to deliver her valuable speech, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kaliappan and Dr. Basim. Thank you very much. Very good afternoon to all of you. So for the third time we are discussing this topic. Maybe the participants are different. Anyway, I'll try my level best to clarify all the things. So role of assessment and feedback in enhancing students' motivation and performance. As all of us we know, assessment and feedback is an integral part of the process of evaluations. So nowadays in the present day context, especially in the online context, it has a very high relevance for the students' performance, because it has totally changed the whole pedagogical setup, the classroom teaching setup and context, everything it has changed. Or in this context, how assessment and evaluation are very important, and how can we utilize these things for giving, not only for giving the feedback to our students, but again enhancing their motivation and participation, because this is the biggest challenge in this online context. So assessment and feedback, as all of us we know that assessment is an integral part, and primarily we talk of formative assessment and summative assessment. These are the two basic types of assessment. But primarily we'll be dealing with formative assessment here, because formative assessment takes a major role in giving the feedback to the students. So feedback to the students for their performance enhancement, as well as students' feedback for the teachers' performance assessment. So improvement. So how the assessment, formative assessment and feedback can help both the teachers and the learners, and what are its different functions? How can we enhance this effectiveness of the feedback? So that we'll be discussing in the following 1.5 hour discussion. Okay. So to how to bridge the gap, because assessment primarily, the summative assessment dominates in the sense that at the end of the semester for the certification, for for grading. Yes.
Can you maximize your slides? So can you change it?
Maximize, no? Okay.
Slide change, slide so. Yes, ma'am.
Is it okay? Okay. Now, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Now it's audible. Okay.
Now, okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
So assessment primarily we mean that usually summative assessment for degree for the at the end of the semester, end of the course, for the degrees, for the degree award of the degrees, for the certification, for grade point, for CGPA, all kinds of things. So summative for the students, from the students' perspective, you can say summative assessment. The relevance of summative assessment is more important, because it at the end it calculates their CGPA, their grade point average, and they're much worried for this. But however, we will be focusing here on formative assessment, whereas formative assessment is very much required, is very much relevant for the overall improvement of the students in the teaching learning process, like not only enhancing his performance, but motivation, self-regulation, so many other skills. So through formative assessment and feedback, how the students, they can learn, they can develop different kinds of skills, academic skills. So therefore, we'll be talking about the feedback as a pattern, as a form of formative assessment. So feedback, as you can see, with the emphasis on assessment for learning. So primarily we use the feedback both for teaching and learning. Okay, it is also required for the students to improve their progress, learning and understanding, but it is also equally relevant for the teachers for improving the effective teaching or effectiveness of the teaching. So what constitutes the effective feedback then? Okay, so the feedback, effective feedback, actually, it focuses on improving the success and achievement for the students, how it can bring better success, progress, goal achievement, etc., and creating the responsive learning, how the learners become more responsive, more independent, more thoughtful with regard to their performance, with regard to their understanding, their motivation, their higher order thinking process, and it also enhances the teacher's teaching, because whenever we are teaching, the teacher at the one end, learner at the other end, in face-to-face classroom teaching or in the physical classroom, actually we can interact, not only interact, we can directly assess, evaluate, we can see, and we can interact. While interacting with the students, we can see it, we can visualize it, we can get the meaning, get it interpreted when we are in a face-to-face teaching learning mode or the communication mode. by observing their body language, facial expression, so many cues. But in online context, it has become very difficult to assess the progress of the students. So that is why its importance has been increased in this online context primarily. So the motto is that how in online context, how the learners become more responsive, in the sense that they can not only they can assess their own needs, but they can also try out, get the feedback from the teachers, and try out other methods to to satisfy, to fulfill their educational needs, and to assess and evaluate or reflect upon their own learning, to make them independent, to find out their strengths and weaknesses, and they can make the self-progress or self-motivated and self-regulate their behavior, so that they become more responsible learners, more responsive learners. And also equally at the same time, it also gives the teachers many challenges to convince, to get the maximum results, to get them motivated, to get them engaged, so ultimately to enhance their teaching effectiveness as well. So it improves not only the success and achievement, it makes the learners more responsive, self-regulated learner, responsible learner, responsible learner, and at the same time enhance the teacher's teaching effectiveness. So you can say that pedagogy, we can say that its feedback is a pedagogical framework. Is a pedagogical framework of assessment for learning, and for learning, not for learning. That means it's a pedagogical framework of assessment that we use for improving the learning. But not of learning. It doesn't consist of only learning, but it is meant for the learning, so that it can promote the students' engagement and learning. At the same time, teachers' effectiveness also. So effective feedback has been described as specific, descriptive, and student initiative, combined with self and peer assessment, time appropriate to suited to the needs of the individuals. Like feedback, effective feedback can be initiated from the students' end as well as from the teacher's end. So when it becomes, so it has to be very specific, descriptive, narrative, elaborative, and of student initiated, because students when students become independent, self-learned, etc., they will seek teachers' feedback, peers' feedback, seniors' feedback, others' feedback to evaluate their own learning, to evaluate their own understanding and performance. So that is, it is student initiated, so which can be combined with time appropriate. Just a minute. हाँ, तुम 4:45 बजे आ जाओ, 4:45 बजे, अभी मेरा क्लास चल रहा है. हाँ, अभी मेरा क्लास चल रहा है. हाँ. So effective feedback has been described. It has to be very specific. It has to be descriptive. It has to be student initiated. If you want that, it should function in a very effective way, and it is time appropriate. What should be the right time of giving the feedback, and depending on the type of content, type of audience, type of teaching learning context, etc. So therefore, and suited to the needs of the individuals, because we have to cater to the needs of the target audience, or the stakeholders, or the participants. So suited to the needs of the individuals. It also provides strategies for improvement. Yes, feedback also gives you some options and strategies and approaches to adopt better strategy, better approaches for enhancing your performance, that is for improvement, and allows time for action. Suppose that after feedback also, it gives us an opportunity to act upon, so that we can improve our performance, especially in the lab classes, especially in the technical classes, in the field experience, in the practical situation. It allows the participants to act upon their own performance, to learn certain new skills. So feedback can be given in any form, depending on the type of the audience, type of the stakeholder, depending on the content, depending on the subject discipline, whether they are studying the theoretical subjects or the practical subjects in the labs, hands-on experiences, in any kind of form. So effective feedback can be customized as per the requirement of the participants, students. So it can also happen in a conversational way. It can happen in a two-way communication, one-to-one communication, or in the group communication. It can also take place in the collaborative or the group setup. So there are varieties of modes, mediums, and the different modes and mediums it can be given to customize it as per the requirement of the students or the target group. So as we have already discussed, it has the benefit for both the teachers as well as the learners. So if the feedback is presented alongside, again, another thing finding, this is the research finding, if the feedback is presented alongside a grade, the benefit which the feedback provided can be reduced. Like for example, in general, when we are giving the feedback for any kind of assignments, short test or the mock test or whatever, so the students get motivated. Like, yes, these are my shortcomings, I will do. But if we attach a grade with it, every time we give the feedback, we attach a grade along with this, then that is demotivating. That may not enhance, because the student gets, the learner get upset. That means loses some kind of, confidence when some grade is attached to it. That is why without grade, its effectiveness increases, and its benefits also improves. So if the grade is omitted, it supports the learner and parents to focus on the learning rather than interpretation of the grade. Because when we are giving a grade, means we are putting a label. When we are putting C grade, B grade, etc., that means we are putting a level to the students' performance or their level of understanding or IQ, intelligence level. That is discouraging, in the sense that discourages the students, like in lowering their self-confidence. Hence, grades should not be allotted to the feedback every time. Yes, in the summative assessment, at the end of the semester, we have to grade them, we have to allot them some marks, that is okay. But during the formative assessments mode, we should not attach any grade or the mark. Rather, in the verbal way, in the conversational way, through the dialogue, we can give them feedback. And for the teachers, it is important to reflect on the practices that is using in the classroom and how this affects the students. So when, again, for every semester, then we also get the feedback, students feedback of our courses. So that means there are different parameters, different things like your course, your difficult level, your encouragement. So many n number of items are there in the. So when you get the feedback from the students and the average overall grade overall percentage out of 5 or 10, whatever the point, that also gives an opportunity to the teacher to reflect upon his own teaching. Sometimes what happens that with the large classes, when the student strength is very large and the students also, they get fed up with it, so they just casually do it. They just casually give some kind of marks or ranks, etc., like these things. But however, if you go through the qualitative descriptions, qualitative feedback they have given in their feedback, that some of the items in the qualitative feedback can also actually give us opportunity to reflect upon our own theme, reflect upon our own teaching and own subject and course and etc. So similarly, effective feedback is necessary for the improvement and learning of the students. It also influential in creating the learners responsive to their learning and important in enhancing the teacher's teaching. So ultimately here we have two major goals. One is that how to make the learners more responsive, responsible, and self-learners in the teaching learning context, especially in the online context, and how to enhance the teacher's teaching effectiveness even in the online platform or digital platform. So these are the two biggest challenges, and we can say these are the the major goals of this assessment and feedback or in the digital platform. So the teacher and the learner both must act to have the best outcomes of the learning. So that is why even in the online also, that is why in this present context we are using more of the blended learning approach. Like sometimes we often give them we adopt the flipped learning and we give them beforehand the content, and in the classroom, and actually during the classroom period or the Zoom or the Google Meet or the online classroom setup, we usually discuss to interact, to enhance our interaction, to know each other, because so many n number of students are there in the physical classroom. At least we can see them, we can see their faces, we can see their expressions, we can directly call them and talk to them, etc. But in the online classroom situation, at the same time, we cannot see all the students. That is the major drawback. So we have to engage ourselves in more and more dialogue, conversation, and interaction, classroom interaction. That is why we have adopted this now blended learning method, or innovative method like flip method. Flip method, before and you give them the content and they will go through it, and in the classroom you can engage themselves in the discussion, clarification, and all kinds of things. But here another thing is that even if you send them the material beforehand, they should go through it. They should go through it before. And how do you ensure it? The student, those few who have gone through it actually, so they will be interacting in the classroom. Otherwise, other students may not be very much motivated. So here, students, how to motivate the students and engage them and enhance their performance is the biggest challenge in the online platform. Okay. So the key process that underpin the teaching and learning here is that establishing the learner's current state of learning, where they are going, their goal, and what needs to be done to get them there or achieve their goal. So this is the general objective of feedback, assessment, and feedback in physical classroom as well, in both on and online and offline. So first thing is that when there's when they're coming into the taking the enrollment in a particular course, we must map their existing knowledge. That is the learner's current state of learning, or their entry behavior, we can say. Thereafter, we have to also assess their needs and expectation. What do they expect from the course? So on the basis of their needs and aspirations or expectations, they'll be setting some of the academic goals. So what sort of goal they are fixing, they are assessing, they are fixing their thing, and how can they realize those goals and achieve those goals? So teacher has to motivate, the teacher has to help them in actually setting the desirable goals, achievable goals, and both the long-term and short-term goals. Even if they have set up the long-term, this is my JEE entrance is my long-term goal, or doing MTech, or getting this GATE score in the GATE exam, even if it is a long-term goal, how to break it down into small, achievable, short-term goals. So it is here also feedback and assessment can help a lot in setting them their achievable goals. Then what needs to be done in order to achieve that goal, what needs to be done to get them there, to help them to reach there, to achieve that short-term goals. That is also responsibility of the teacher through, and he has to do it through assessment and feedback. Okay. Then when the students are appropriately informed about their progress, they're actually able to identify their next steps for the learning. So when assessment and feedback are being given from time to time with very more frequency and repeatedly, so that can guide them, that can make them not only more independent, but that can give them some cues and tips for moving ahead, for making a progress towards the next step. So educators would prioritize the formative strategies of assessment over the summative and use the evidence gathered for the formative assessment to serve the assessment and summarize the achievement. So therefore, in comparison to summative assessment, formative assessment is more beneficial, helpful in making the progress, in enhancing their performance, because from time to time when we are giving them the feedback, and not only they are getting the knowledge and the knowledge about their current status, but what would be the right strategy, what should be the proper steps, and how, in which direction they should move ahead, and what are the resources available. So it gives them a clear schema outline for moving ahead, and that is more beneficial for their career and for their performance. And these, when we take at the end of the semester, at the end of the session, like when we summarize that formative assessment feedback and the progress the student has made, actually when we summarize these two things, that is more beneficial and helpful, and that is more substantial to map their achievement, to map their performance. Okay, so these are the benefits. Then next we'll go to, and again we have what are the specific objectives of formative assessment. Like we have already discussed about that some of the points. Now we'll elaborate on this. So creating responsible learners through feedback and assessment and feedback. How can you create the responsible learners? So therefore, the students must be encouraged to actively process the information and feedback received. Like we have to engage, we have to engage them, we have to encourage them. That whatever feedback and we are giving, we immediately act upon this. We have to encourage them to immediately act upon this, the information we have provided or the feedback they have received. That is called when they actively go through it and act upon it. That is called the mindfulness. Like the feedback has been given to them, and we'll insist upon so that they should go through the information and feedback given to them and act upon this, so that they can be thoughtfully engaged in that information processing and action. So that is called the mindfulness. So they will think about this and act upon this. That mindfulness, it will lead towards the greatest gain in the performance when they're actively engaged in taking in being actively engaged in the reflective thinking about the feedback, analyzing this feedback and acting upon the steps to improve their performance. That mindfulness activity can actually help them in gaining the performance, improving the performance. Then another is that student-centered formative assessment, actually it encourages student-centered learning, where the students are actively construct their own knowledge and skills. Actually what happens in this nowadays everywhere, almost both in online and offline, we are adopting the constructive learning approach, constructive pedagogical approach, where the students have been given the information, sources of information, feedback, everything has been given to them, but they are independent and they are autonomous to reflect on their own knowledge, interpretation, and they can add on. We have to make them, so constructive learning approach, constructive pedagogical approach makes them more independent. So therefore, it also advocates for student-centered learning. So student-centered learning, the students become actively engaged. They take the major role. Teacher's role is just to facilitate them, just to mentor them, just to provide them resources like these things, just to guide them and just to guide them. So students here can construct their own knowledge. If they like, they can unlearn certain things and relearn and reconstruct certain new things. Because now, now the students, how do they select the courses, subjects? It's like a cafeteria approach. They have been provided, they have been given a number of courses. Now they are independent to choose up and pick up. So they are the more independent learners, and they will select which course to learn, which course not to learn, because depending on their interest, depending on their future prospects. Now the job sector also diversities are there. It's very so much interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary things are also happening. So there is no hard and fast rule to take these combination of the courses, or to restrict themselves to this boundary, like this science related or humanities related. Nothing like that. Anybody can take the mathematics as well as the art and the philosophy and so many other things. So in the student-centered pedagogical framework, teaching learning process, etc. So the students actively construct and reconstruct. So we have to allow them, we have to empower them to think about their own learning by using certain metacognitive strategies or tips, etc., so that they can reflect upon their own learning. They can find out their strengths and weaknesses. They can chalk out the future plan. They can construct and reconstruct their own learning and interpret in their own way. And maybe that in the later on they also innovate and add something new to the learning domain or knowledge domain. So therefore, feedback is important in creating responsible learners. Responsible learners who can respond properly to the information sources they are receiving, to the feedback they are receiving, to the information sources, learning resources they are facing nowadays. So who are better at safe, so that can empower them not only to reflect upon their own learning, not only to construct and reconstruct their knowledge and understanding, but to control and monitor their own learning behavior. That is called the self-regulation. They can monitor and control and regulate their own learning behavior. That is called the self-regulation. So here academic self-regulation is very important in making them independent, responsible learners, so that they take the ownership of their own learning. If they perform well, it's because of their effort, it's because of their choice, it's because of their strategies, it's because of their metacognitive skills, it is because of their performance. So we are here to empower them, to show them the path line, to help them in spelling out some of the strategies, and to help them in giving the feedback. However, every student is coming to the teaching learning situation with his or her own background. He has developed some kind of mindset, some kind of personality traits. So primarily we can see there are two types of mindset. One is the growth mindset, another is the fixed mindset. In the growth mindset, when the students they become very open-minded in the sense that they are keen, they're very open-minded in receiving any type of feedback, information, etc., and to act upon it. So they're welcome. They can welcome new ideas, new thoughts, new criticism. Whereas the fixed mindset is they're very rigid in the attribution style. So they cannot easily. They're more of traditional type. They're a very fixed mindset that they cannot invite. They cannot welcome or adapt to the new learning situation or welcome the new information. They take time. They take time in blending it in their thought process. So depending on their mindset, whether it is growth mindset or the fixed mindset, so the effectiveness, the student's mindset, it also influences the effectiveness of the field. To what extent our feedback and assessment has been effective, it also depends on the student's characteristics. Got it? The student's characteristics, basically, that is their mindset, whether they are open-minded or mindset is very fixed, that is their attribution style. Regardless of how effective it was, we have tried our level best to provide them in a very clear and effective way, but it depends on them, how do they receive it? Because in the teaching learning process, students are the key players. Students, teaching learning content, or the subject content, teacher's personality, then mode of teaching, medium of teaching, so many factors also interact and evolve to make the whole thing successful. So students' characteristics here also plays a very important role. The second objective is enhancing the teacher's teaching. The first thing was that how to make the learners responsible learners. Now it is about how it can enhance the teacher's teaching. So feedback can be used to modify the teaching and learning activities to meet the needs of the students. By the students' feedback, the teacher can identify where to focus in teaching. As we have already discussed, even though mostly the students, they randomly give some points, marks, etc. randomly, they're very casual in giving the feedback, but somehow out of 100, maybe 2-3 such feedbacks can come up to you, where some of the students, they might have written something elaborately, something narratively in a qualitative way, which can also give some feedback and some meaning to point out, to identify where your flaws are. So where to say there, this kind of feedback and clues can give us where to focus in teaching. So that in every semester, every session, we are teaching the same, even though we are teaching the same subject, we can make it more interesting, more innovative by adding something, by removing something, by introducing them through a different mode, new things. So by adding new thing, we can also be very creative in creative and enthusiastic in making the same thing, delivering the same things on same topic, but in a different mode and meaning. So teaching and learning is a reciprocal relationship where the feedback is not only important for the learners, they are learning, but also the way of teaching, it can cause the learning. So again, teaching and learning. These are teaching and learning. It's a human communication process. It's an interaction process. It's a conversation process. So it's definitely bound to be reciprocal. When it becomes one way, it becomes monotonous. It becomes passive learning. Like in traditional classroom, teacher used to come and talk, deliver a lecture and write down something on the blackboard, and the students are the passive learning. It's not like that. So when it becomes two-way, it's reciprocal. So the relationship is it's interactive. It's more of reciprocal, or it involves human communications. So you can say two-way communication, interpersonal communication. So it equally, if the communication is very effective and it can enhance its reciprocal relationship, then it will be beneficial to both the parties, both the teacher as well as the learner. So teacher to be critically engaged with research literature and must continue to be reflective practitioner to improve the students. So here again, with the teacher's feedback, assessment and feedback, the students will think of it, act upon it, improve its understanding, and work on, then apply some metacognitive strategy to enhance these performance goals, achieve the goals, etc. to become independent self-learner and enhance his self-regulation or academic self-regulation skills. Okay, that is from the student's perspective. From the teacher's point of view, after receiving the students' feedback, the teacher has to update themselves also in terms of research. Because suppose a teacher, when we are modifying the same content in every semester, then we are thinking of what else can be done. Like nowadays we are exploring many more pedagogical strategies. Okay, now in blended learning we can introduce a flip learning, we can introduce the blended flip, we can introduce now flip pair teaching. So these things are the outcome of research only. So the teacher has to update himself or herself through research, because not only he has to be engaged in research, but he has to go through the research literature as well to update himself. Suppose, so it's therefore research is complementary and supplementary to teaching. So if you're engaged in the research, definitely that will strengthen and boost your teaching, because you will be exploring new things and you will be trying it out. And if you find it out that it's more beneficial in comparison to the earlier strategy, now you can adopt and we can adopt it. So it will enhance. So, but teaching is like a practice, and research is it's a kind of exploration of the latest trained resources and mechanism and the framework, etc. So therefore, teacher has to enhance his efficacy and efficiency and make the teaching effective. He has to be critically engaged in the research literature, engage themselves in the research activity in order to become the reflective practitioners. We have to, whatever we do, we have to reflect upon our own. And again, here our target is that how to cater to the needs of the students, and students' diversity is there. First thing is that we have to customize our teaching content and material according to the students' requirement. And the students N is like anything. It can be 100, it can be 50, it can be 200, whatever. So 200 students means, and if N is 200 means 200 types of needs, 200 types of learners. So how to do it? So that primarily we focus on the major categories, that average. But anyway, suppose in online platform or offline, suppose the students come up with their problems, or that means we come to know about their specific need, etc. We have to cater them. So 200 students, 200 types of needs, 200 goals, how to help them, how to make them responsible. That is our biggest challenge for us. And from the students' feedback, how to update ourselves, how to make our teaching not only effective, most up to date. Then how, again, one is students' feedback, second is the research component. If we blend it, then the research component. Then only, so and at the same time, as the way we want the students to be mindful learners, similarly, we have to be the reflective practitioners as well. So we have to, every time, whatever we are teaching, whatever, we have to map it, that whether they have received or not. If they have received, at what level they are, then if they are improving their performance, means yes, our teaching has been effective. So we have to be reflective practitioner actually as well. We have to make them independent learner, enhance their academic self-regulation, and a mindful learner, but at the same time, we have to be reflective practitioner in enhancing our teaching practices. So there is this is a model. This is a model we'll be discussing. This is a model. It's already there. Model of formative assessment and feedback. Black et al. In 2004 has given it. This model we'll be discussing. First thing is that, again, if the teachers focus on reinforcing the view that feedback will help the students to learn rather than dictate how smart they are, it enables the student to learn. Like when we are giving them the feedback, so don't put a kind of, impression on them, how smart they are, or how unsmart they are, or what is their IQ, at what level they are, what type of students they are, what is their level, what is their grade, etc. Instead of showing them this kind of thing, rather we should help them in learning better. So instead of dictating, showing them or labeling them, like you are of this type, you are of that type, your score is like, should be like that, etc., etc. Rather, we have to focus on the feedback, has to empower them in improving their learning. Okay. So another is that feedback also, we'll be discussing this model. It is also there in the next slide. So feedback can also play an active role in generating internal feedback for the learners. Like for example, students' feedback, research component, it enables us, helps us in making us a reflective practitioner. Similarly, our feedback to the students can help them to assess their own progress, to evaluate their own progress, etc. So to internalize the feedback, so they can get feedback, they can get the self-feedback. That is the internal feedback they can receive from themselves. External feedback they receive from the peers, from the teachers, etc. But in the process of assessment and feedback, formative assessment feedback, we should empower them not only how to learn, and in the process of learning, they can also evaluate, monitor, evaluate, and reflect upon their own learning. That is while helping them in assessing, monitoring, and reflecting their own. That is making them the self-regulated, developing the academic self-regulation. Through that, when they become independent, responsible learners and academic, they are develop the academic self-regulation skill. Then they used to get some internal feedback, like in terms of intuition. Oh, probably though I should adopt this strategy. That would have been better. This would have been better. So they used to get some kind of internal feedback. That is also equally important. So that is the internal feedback that the students receive. Actually, it's the outcome of a continuous process of feedback, and then mindfulness activity, then reflective practice, and then it's continuous cycle of learning. Continuous cycle of learning. Then we'll be discussing this thing, etc. in the next slide. Like this is the students monitoring the gaps. Students also they will also start self-assessment. So we'll go back to this slide. It is there in the next slide also. Now, before that, there are certain principles of the good feedback practice. First thing, facilitate the development of self-assessment in learning. That is feedback. Always facilitate the self-assessment, monitoring, reflection in learning. It encourages the teachers and the peer dialogue around learning. Feedback always engage the students, the students as well as the teachers in students in getting the feedback, seeking the feedback from the teachers as well as the peer feedback, and teachers also to be engaged in kind of different kinds of dialogue and conversation in and around learning process. It helps to clarify good performance. Like it helps into clarifying the, with the dialogue and conversations, both the teachers and students, they can fix, oh, this is a good parameter, this is a good criteria, these are our goals, how the goals should be achievable, how much should be the degree of challenge that we have to face in every step, and what is the standard expected from others, from the, from some certificate examinations or from some certain entrance examinations. Then provides the opportunity to how to close the gap. Like for example, every course, it has certain instructional objectives and the expected learning outcome. When you design a course, we want that these are our objectives, and at the end of the course, the students should be able to learn these things. So that means we have an expected criteria of meeting those objectives. So when the gap lies, like for example, our instructional objective, our expected learning outcome, but their actual learning outcome. So the gap lies between students' performance and our expected learning outcomes. How to fill up those gaps? Those gaps can be filled up through feedback. So it should provide, feedback should also provide the opportunities to close that gap between the current status and the desired performance. What is the current level of performance right now? The current level of understanding of the students, and what actually they are expected to learn, or what should be their desired performance. So feedback and assessment, formative assessment and feedback can fill up those gaps between the current state of thing and the expected future state of performance. And delivers, it also provides different kinds of opportunity in terms of different types of assignments, quizzes, experiential learning, different kinds of innovative methods. Then delivers high quality of information to the students about their learning. It also, again, so all the time the teachers should focus on giving them better quality information, better quality teaching, better quality content, better quality information sources to improve, always improve in a progressive way. Encourage the positive motivational beliefs and systems. Again, besides intellectual, besides cognitive, the teachers should also give them some tips for enhancing their non-cognitive attribute. Like for example, motivation is a non-cognitive, but motivation plays a major role in enhancing the cognitive performance. So motivation, emotional involvement, emotional intelligence, it is also non-cognitive, but it supplements, it stimulates cognitive component. So motivation and emotion, involvement, engagement, So teachers, the feedback also gives them some motivational beliefs and beliefs and ambitions, aspirations, emotions, to be more engaged, to be more, to be self-motivated, to be self-regulated. So that will not only enhance their performance, but their self-esteem, self-respect, self-efficacy, their personality development. Because education is ultimately the all-round development, harmonious development of the learner, of the individual, not just the content, and not just the domain knowledge, not just the content knowledge, but overall personality development. That also includes your emotions, your behavior, your motivations, your aspirations, everything, the holistic development. Okay, it provides the information to teachers that can be used to help shape the teaching. Provides the information to teachers also. So it's a reciprocal process, it's a two-way process, it's an interactive way. What the teachers said them, its impact on the students, and what the students they give the feedback, it also has the impact on, it also helps us teachers to change, to monitor, to change, and modify it. So it's a two-way learning cycle going on and on. So giving the assessment feedback, how should you give? How should we as a teacher should give the feedback? What should be the, it should have a language component, it should have a communication mode, it should have a, it should have the, specific, it has to be specific, it has to be, we have to map it according to the requirement, according to the need, according to the requirement, according to the context. So the objectives of the assessment feedback should be like to justify to students how their mark and grade was derived. Like, for example, after the mid-semester examination or something like that, when the students, they come to you to check their answer scripts, how much they have got, why they have got, in which question, how they have got how much mark, and why they have received this, and why not this. Then we compare it, then we show them, we explain that you have received this much, you have written the answer in this way, you should have written in that way, etc. And how we have to show them the another better script, some better answer script where the things have been explained in a better way. So we have to make them a comparison. So that is to justify them how much mark they have got it, and why they have got it, and how they have derived it. Identify and reward specific qualities in the students' work. Like some students might have written in a very different way, like for example, from your own thought, from in an innovative way, by citing the case studies, by giving the real life examples. So you have to, if somebody has done something like that, then you have to identify and reward the specific qualities of the students, to think beyond beyond the black box. Like for example, to think in a very innovative way, very analytical way, very creative way. So that quality we have to also acknowledge and praise and reward those qualities of the students, because that shows the higher order thinking, creative ideas, innovative things, like being different, being unique, being different. So guide the students on what steps to take the improve. Guide the students on what step to take to. Like they are diverse, they are different, they are unique. So we have to guide them. If our target criteria is to achieve the highest level of performance, mastery learning, etc. But they have the individual characteristics, and keeping in mind their strengths and weaknesses, how to how to guide them, guide them to pick up the right steps, approaches, and strategies to improve, because they have their own strengths and weaknesses, their own learning styles, their own level of understanding. So keeping in mind their status quo, then we have to give them some tips and strategies through which they can move on and achieve their goal. So here, why the teacher's role is as a facilitator and mentor, because if the student will put effort, he or she can ultimately achieve it, but it will take long time. Maybe that in that intermittent process, he faces the failures that may be very discouraging. So teacher as a facilitator and mentor is that we have to guide them in the right direction. Motivate them to act on their assessment. Definitely, whatever is the performance, how suppose, like for example, when we say that what you have written, you read it thoroughly again and again and again, so that you can self-check the same thing. Similarly, to evaluate your own answer. So develop their capability to monitor, evaluate, and regulate their own learning. So that is by telling them, you can check your friends, peers' answer script, you can check your own things, go through it, read it out again and again, just compare it with other scripts or other, then that means the question answers given in the guide, the self-check, practice more self-check exercises, self-assessment techniques. So in this way to improve the critical thinking and approach, like that means whenever we are, so it enhances that not only the writing skills but thinking skills as well. So these are the two, again, to benefit the students' learning. Definitely feedback is being given to benefit the students' learning in the classroom context. So feedback has to be very constructive, timely, and meaningful. Constructive feedback means, as we have already discussed, like for example, instead of labeling them, instead of telling them that what is your standard, how smart and or unsmart you are, rather than you highlight on their strengths. But yes, point out their weaknesses, but help them in guiding towards how to overcome these weaknesses. Instead of criticizing them, you just help them, guide them in pointing out their weaknesses and how these weaknesses can be improvised, can be overcome. But again, time is very important. Giving feedback just after the task, just after the performance is much more beneficial. But yes, due to some of the problems, like for example, if the student strength is 200 or 100 and 150, then checking the, actually checking the answer scripts is a big challenge for the teachers. And there we may not be able to get the feedback immediately just after the exam. But now in like this online platform, it is useful. Like when we give them CQs and self-check exercises, or you can say small questions with the answers given. So but we have to develop, a kind of, format to evaluate the descriptive answer. Short answer type is that is 5 marks short answer type questions are there. That means we can quickly be checked, but again, quickly be checked by, but again, now in this NLP people, they are working on how to evaluate the short answer type. Descriptive answer, long question is very difficult to check it online. That means it takes time. It takes time. But yes, with small modules, with small tasks and small short answer type questions, we can give them the feedback frequently, very frequently. So here time can be maintained. So timely feedback is very helpful for them just after the because they when they have given some assignments and they have given some quizzes and tests, etc. They're waiting for your feedback. So that is where time is very relevant. And constructive in the sense that to help them in modifying and in overcoming their weaknesses and to move in a proper direction. And meaningful, it should get the target. Just so therefore, whenever giving the feedback, it should be very meaningful and related to their performance, their actual academic skill or competence. Instead of a very vague answer, a broad answer like this thing, yes and no and so and say okay, this kind of thing. Rather, you target to the specific task, their individual needs, and specific feedback they should be the feedback that should benefit them in terms of improving some skills and competence. So therefore, constructive, timely, and meaningful feedback are very helpful in encouraging the students to think critically, to monitor their own behavior, academic behavior, develop this academic self-regulation, and develop this mindfulness activity. Like whatever you give it to them, instead of just passively getting it by heart, they will read out, they will interpret, they will critically evaluate it, they will add or reconstruct the knowledge. So to reflect upon the thing, what they need to improve, how they should, that is how, why, when, not only the what of learning, but why of learning, how of learning, when of learning, where of learning, and how to improvise the learning. All these things, they will learn to ask the questions to themselves and get the answer, try to get the answer. So it will help them in see their learning in a new ways and gain increased satisfaction from it, helps to promote the dialogue between the staff and students. That means how they can be better engaged in more a kind of constructive debate, constructive dialogue, and how they can accept the criticism, how they can evaluate the feedback. Like for example, they have received 100 feedback. So how do they evaluate this feedback? How do they categorize this? Which feedbacks are relevant, very important to them, and which feedbacks can be ignored? They can also start, evaluating the feedback, from where again they will develop the skill of internal feedback as well. So through effective feedback, what happens? It guides the students to better adapt and adjust their learning strategies. It also helps the teacher to adapt and adjust the teaching and to accommodate to as per the students' learning needs. It also guides the students to become independent self-learners, reflective learners, and better critics of their own performance, so that they can set up the higher strategies, higher criteria, higher standards, and they try to compete, try to compete to the standard they have made, not only met by others, but also they can set up the target and strategies and criteria for themselves, and they'll try to compete with this. Stimulates reflection, interaction, dialogue about learning improvement. It has to, then it also becomes very constructive, so that the students feel more encouraged, more enthusiastic, more motivated to improve their performance, very much focused for the higher learning, higher education, higher learning. They have, and then again also it engage the students by requiring them to attend the feedback as a part of the assessment day. Then voluntarily they will seek the feedback from the peers, from the teachers, and they become more efficient. So it enhances motivation, efficiency, efficacy, then self-regulation, all kinds of the reflective thinking, all kinds of the this behavioral output in case of the students, and equally benefits the teachers as well. So this is the model we are talking about. As you can see, this is the model of the formative assessment. Here what happens, the information comes, the teachers set the task. That means the students, they are coming to the classroom, to the course with their existing knowledge, the background, etc. That is with their entry behavior. Now here the teacher sets the task, the teacher helps them in setting the criteria and setting the goals, long-term goal. Even though they are having the long-term goal, they may not be very clear about their goal. So the teacher will explain them, help them in explaining their goal, helping them in setting their goals, long-term goal, how it should be divided, short-term goals, what should be the criteria, what should be the parameter, what should be the approach. So the teacher's role is here is at the entry level, is helping them to setting their goals, short-term goals, long-term goals, and the suitable strategies for achieving those goals. And what should be the criteria of performance, or you have to meet the criteria, and what should be the intermittent steps. Okay. Thereafter, these things related to three things. One is the domain knowledge, in which domain, subject, discipline you are going to learn. That is, domain knowledge is important. Then again, strategy knowledge, like how to achieve your goals, short-term goals. So for that, you need to develop certain strategies, specific, cognitive strategies, metacognitive strategies, self-regulating strategy. All the strategies are the approaches to achieve that knowledge. Third thing is your motivational beliefs. Beliefs, like if you value, like for example, if you value the course, value that yes, it will help me, it is meaningful for my life. That is the belief and value you attach to the course, and that raises your motivation. That is why you are motivated. So it is this motivation and beliefs, it's your affective domain of the learner. This is the subject discipline, and this is the cognitive domain. Okay, so it's the domain knowledge. This is the cognitive strategies, or cognitive metacognitive strategy, tips, approaches that you adopt, and this is the motivational domain, is there to help them, to boost them. So when all these three things put together interact with each other, then it moves towards the students' goals. Students' goal, intermittent goals, short-term goals, etc. So thereafter, again, it moves towards the practicing those strategies, those cognitive strategies, specific strategies, then the lab skills, the tactics, some of these competencies. So that will move towards that the students will be able to learn certain cognitive and non-cognitive strategies, generic skill, specific skills, lab skills, communication skills, so many other types of skills. Then all these things put together, then it will move towards the learning outcome performance. Here, in the meantime, here, the student is here. Student is the key role player here. The student receives the feedback from different sources. One is the teacher. Yes, students, like the students' feedback, that is through dialogue with the peers, with the teachers. Then this is called the external feedback. Even in the workplace also, we used to get the external feedback from the external, maybe from the seniors, from the managers, from the boss, from the teachers. So here, this is through the dialogue, the students, the learners, they give the feedback. Give the feedback from the peers, from the teachers, from the seniors, or whatever. And at the same time, the student, again, when the students receive the information from all these sources, okay, so he starts monitoring or assessing his own performance. So because here our job is to, through formative assessment and feedback, our job is to make him more independent, responsible learner. So he starts monitoring the gaps. monitoring the gaps through self-assessment. Like, yes, it is expected, this is the level of teaching, this is the way the teachers teaches, and this is required, this is the level of difficulty of the course, this is the standard my students are, my peers are performing. So this is the target, this is the quality, this is the level that is expected, and where do I stand? So he begins monitoring the gaps, that is the self-assessment. So the self-assessment is being facilitated by, yes, the strategy knowledge from time to time he is receiving, okay. Then the goals he has, because every time he is mapping his progress with the goal he has set, so mapping between performance and the goals. Then the tactics, strategies he is changing over time again and again to modify, to improve his performance through mindfulness and mindful activities, etc. And the feedbacks he's giving, that is the learning outcomes. Learning outcomes, the feedback he's receiving, his standard, whether his standard is improving. So all this is one direction. This is the external feedback he's receiving from the external agent. But all these three processes, the strategies he is using, and the goals he is setting for himself, mapping the goals with the target, then tactics and strategies he is doing, skills and competencies he is developing, and the learning outcomes, like whatever scores and performance, the scores and the grades, or you can say the performances of his academic performances, achievement performances. These are things, all these things, all this mapping between all these things, it gives a kind of internal feedback to the learner. So that is from these sources also he gets whatever information he gets from time to time, and he starts he begins monitoring his own performance through self-assessment. Then these sources acts as the internal feedback path, the path for the internal feedback, which also gives the students, it helps in monitoring and reflecting upon his own learning. So here the external feedback and the internal feedback received from all these things, all these put together act upon, then it moves towards the performance. So here external feedback, through the external process, it also moves towards the performance, and all these things put together, it also contributes to the performance. You can say, so these are the, you can say, if this is the, these are the variables, if these are the variables, these are, you can say, the moderating variables, the one by one linear model, like one by one moves, each variable facilitates the other variable, put together, taking together, it acts as a source of information for the internal feedback. All these things act together, then it leads towards the performance. So this is the model of formative assessment and feedback. If all of us, we can, any learner, every learner, even the teacher, if we monitor, if we follow this kind of model, it will be scientifically help us in enhancing the performance. These are some of the things, models of feedback, how it is. Again, feedback has different stages also. Before actually giving the feedback, prior to that feedback, that's the prior stage is there, that is called the feed up stage. Feedback at the time we are giving, that's the feedback stage. And afterwards, after the feedback, when we follow up the feedback, that is called the feed forward. So feedback has also got the three stages. So this is the model given by this Timpalli and Hattie, and like you can follow this. Feedback has different stages, and at every step, what should be the action plan, what should be the, and feedback can be of different types. It can be related to the task, it can be related to the process, it can be related to the learner's self-regulation, it can be related to the learner's personal things, because you know it focuses on the overall or harmonious development or holistic development. These are some of the principles of the good feedback. Like it should promote the dialogue and conversation more and more, because it is a part of, it is a communication process. It's a human interaction. It's a communication. So that is a more and more we are engaged in dialogue, conversation, discussion, critical evaluation, and more open about it, then it facilitates the feedback. Similarly, emphasize the instructional aspect of the feedback, not the correctional. Like whenever we are giving the feedback to the students or the teachers, we should focus on, like for example, if we are giving it to the students, then we should focus on the learning ability, learning skills, learning processes. Similarly, if you are giving it to the teachers, then it should focus on how to enhance the instructional process, rather than pointing out their, pointing out their mistakes or focusing on the correctional dimension, but rather to the process. instead of focusing on particular one component or the mistake, rather we should focus on the process. Like in instructional process, should focus either instructional process or to the learning process of the learners. Remember to provide the feed forward, indicate that the students need to think about. Feed forward is like after the feedback, how they are following it up, whether the students are actually working upon this feedback or for the time being they have got it and they have forgotten it. No, to follow that feedback, what actions they are taking upon this. Similarly, specify the goals of the test assessment task. Use the feedback to link the students' performance with the specific goal. Like feedback, you try to link up this feedback as a medium to link this to their goals and achievement goals and assessment goals, and how far they have been successful, how far they have been they have been able to go through in that path. This is their goal and this is the way they have done it. So feedback will help us in giving them a mirror that where do they stand, how far they are away from the goal, how closer they are to the goal. So they can map the distance between their goal and their own performance, actual performance. So engage the students in practical exercises and more in dialogue, self-assessment techniques, etc. Set them the criteria. They can also help. You can also help them to give them help them in facilitating their own internal feedback. They can set their own criteria, but to be in a slow and smooth process in a progressive way with a smaller every time they can fix up a goal, but with relatively smaller steps or inductive steps of challenging tasks. If from the very beginning they have set up a very difficult task, it is impossible. That is discouraging. But with the slow gradual increase of the challenging task, difficulty level of the task, slowly and steadily. Design the feedback comments that invite the self-evaluation, self-learning, self-assessment, self-regulation, etc. And the range of participation in the feedback conversation incorporates self and the peer feedback. Yes, along with the teacher's feedback, you also encourage them to include the peer's feedback. These are also some of the good assessment techniques and the practical things that we should also adopt. Like in the lab classes, okay? So it should be like the small group learning, more of the small group learning, and the mentor or the tutor, facilitator moves around the whole thing, lab class one by one, like a participatory thing. As a facilitator, as a participator, instead of a score giver or the teacher or evaluator, rather as a participator and as a participant, as a mentor, as a co-worker, as a co-learner. So this would be the role of a teacher instead of evaluator, strict evaluator, taskmaster, or the grade giver, like this. It's a co-learning. It's a co-learning, learning together. So teacher has to introduce a kind of philosophy of learning together. Both of us, we are learning together. Learning, we are a learning of a member of the learning community, and we are learning together. And this would be the cycle, like in the teaching learning process, in the instructional process, this would be the, each step facilitates the other steps. Like for example, this is the learner's performance. The learner has come with his existing knowledge, background knowledge. Now the teacher has helped him to set up his goals, criteria, and the content, and etc. tips, etc. Thereafter, he moves on, then feedback is given. Feedback is widely regarded researcher as the crucial for improving not only knowledge and acquisition of the learner motivation and satisfaction, but for the teachers as well. So feedback, then that feedback facilitates the learners to apply that knowledge in different setup, etc. But again, what are the learners? They apply it in different setup and context. But again, learners application, that again, if they are happy, if the teacher found that, oh, this strategy has been very successful, very effective, etc., then it can be blended in the instruction process. Can be part of the instruction. Like the one innovative teaching method, pedagogical method we have discovered, we have innovated, and we are putting it for the tryout, like the action research. Through action research, we have tried to experiment on it, try it out. Now, if it is found that in the large scale, it is primarily beneficial for the learners, then we can make it as a part of our instructional process. Okay, that is the teacher-made task, teacher-made strategies, etc. That we have created for ourselves, and it is when it has been beneficial for our students, then we can make a part of our instructional process. So here from instructional adaptation, it can be blended in the instruction. From there again, maybe that something else comes out, which can be input, which can be blended in the learner performance. So it's a cycle, it's a learning cycle. So, and in the feedback in the educational context is the information provided to the learner to reduce the gap between current performance and desired. Ultimately, the thing is that what the desired goal is there for the students and how the student can reach there to fill up those gaps, like the expected learning outcome, or you can say the goal as set up goal, setting the goal achievement, set up the goal and actual performance of the learner. Right now, status of the learners, how to suppose if this is the actual performance of the learner and this is the goal, how to reach to that goal. This path, these gaps should be filled up through feedback, and feedback should facilitate to achieve that goal. And for the teacher, if something innovative is found to be effective, then he can blend it in the teaching learning process. He can practice it. He can reflect upon it. He can use it. And after some time, maybe that with the different needs, with the different situation, he can modify it. So research is there to facilitate all this cycle. So effective feedback, as you can say, or the 4 pillars. It has got the 4 pillars. One is the learner's characteristics, which learner is important. It is student-centered class. Learner's characteristics is their level of understanding, their personality traits, their mindset, everything is important for interpreting the feedback, receiving the feedback, and utilizing the feedback. Second, instructional context, teaching learning context is important. Teaching learning context is important. Teaching learning context is in which context is being given, whether it is being given in the lab class context, in the theoretical context, subject context, etc. Then again, feedback level, at what level you are giving the feedback. Okay, like as a feedback level at what? Superficial level, deep level, task level, like as a feedback regarding the task, regarding when, like for example, a particular problem has been given, it's a task. If you are giving the feedback regarding that problem, that how the problem should have been done, should have been solved, would have been better possible way of, then it is task related. When is it feedback is related to the process, like how the student, how the learner has performed, is process related. That there may be something better strategy, better way of solving that problem, that is the process related. Okay, then thereafter comes your learner related in that person related, like the individual learner's performance, like how they have solved, how they have solved the process, and what are their specific characteristics, specific things, skills through which they have learned. So it is the personal feedback, like you should have adopted this method, that is the personal feedback you are giving to the learner, that you better adopt this strategy, that strategy, so that you'll be able to. That is person related feedback. Another is that your target is that how to make them how to enhance their self-regulation. Okay, that can also be given, that you through this, by adopting these strategies, further strategy, you can become more independent learner, responsible. So here feedback, what is the level of feedback and what is the structure of the feedback, how you are giving level, whether you are giving it at the task level, process level, personal level, and what is the structure of the feedback, how you have framed that feedback process through different kinds of small tests, quiz tests, monitoring the things in the lab, or what is the structure of that feedback, how much feedback through assignments, through quizzes, through labs, through experience learning, through projects, through assignments, through presentation, what is the feedback structure. So feedback also helps them to inform to revise their goal targets, revise the strategy and strategy, or that are all that are just beyond the learner's current abilities. So feedback also helps in revising the goal targets, revising the steps, revising the strategies, etc. So these are the 4 pillars for the effective feedback. So these are the stages of the feedback. Effective feedback we have already discussed. Feed up stages, like before the feedback given, students need to know something, know the learning intention, or you can say a specific goal. What is the specific goal of the task? What they are supposed to learn? Okay, so the direction, the context, there should be like the instructions we give in the question paper. You should do this thing, that thing. That is the feed up process. Feedback is actually, it focuses on monitoring, assessing, learning progression, the way they have solved it, the way they have done it, performed it, etc. Then feed forward is that the next stage to follow up the feedback, like whatever feedback you have followed to learn new competencies of the skills, then whether you are pursuing it or not, further persuasion of that progress. So effective feedback is when the teachers and students address all the three questions: feed up, feedback, and feed forward stages. Then these are the levels, as we have already, this task level or the product level feedback is related to task. So that is whether it is correct, incorrect, what is exactly the content is, answer of the content is right or wrong. That is process level feedback is how you have performed it, the way you have solved the problem, the way you have written, the way you have answered the things. Because this process level feedback also, it enhances student self-efficacy, self-regulatory skill, confidence level, narrative skill, thinking skill, organizational skills, all kinds of things. Then third is the personal level feedback. Personal level feedback to enhance their individual potentialities, skills, and competencies. Okay, so that means how you can improve your skills and competencies, how you can become more independent learner, more self learner, responsible learner. Like so, ultimately here to focus on the self regulation is the most effective through questioning, through feedback, through learning strategies, etc. How to enhance their metacognitive skills, self regulating skills, so that they become the independent learner. So feedback and students' perception of the feedback and the students' self-efficacy, and feedback on students' motivation. These are the three components relevant for the feedback. Feedback for enhancing students' and motivation, feedback for enhancing students' self-efficacy, self-regulation, etc. And feedback for the students' perception feedback. That is, how do they receive the feedback? As justified, correct, accurate, helpful. How do they perceive the feedback? So these are also equally important. So this is the same thing, it has been written here. Feedback is communicative, it's a communication tool. It's a tool for restructure the information. So it's a tool for confirm, to add, to overwrite, to restructure the information that is there, to enhance the domain knowledge, to enhance the metacognitive knowledge, to enhance our beliefs about the meaningfulness of the content, to enhance our faith in the teaching, cognitive tactics, strategies. Feedback is also divided as in which information about the previous performance is used to promote the positive and desirable development. This is some of the data has been given. How feedback has been helpful, some data. Okay, time has, as we have already discussed, time is a very important factor of feedback. So immediate feedback and delayed feedback. Feedback, that is the difference. So good teaching is whether it is conducted in the classroom, clinic, hospital, it requires time. Innovative approaches to teaching, progressive skills, instruction, multi-tier assessment, and support of the development and professionalism all require teachers who have the time to observe, time to instruct, coach, and assess their students, and who also have the time for self-reflection and their own professional development. It's given by Cox et al. So feedback is again, it's a learning process, continuous process. So here you need to devote time, you need to devote effort, you need to devote your passion, you need to devote your dedication, effort, all these things you have to be. So it's again, you can say feedback, it can be both a formal as well as the informal learning process for both the students and the teachers. So the immediate feedback definitely is more beneficial and effective affects the delayed feedback. Delayed feedback definitely becomes this effectiveness, efficacy gradually reduces with the increasing. It's like the conditioning. It's a kind of conditioning process. The delayed will be the reward incentive. The delayed will be its effect. So similar delayed feedback. Actually, that means its effectiveness loses in the sense that maybe that the learner has forgotten the task, how he has written, learner has lost his interest or motivation, has lost his importance, the importance he has given. So delayed feedback, it also So delayed feedback is, however, is more powerful in case of process level. Delayed feedback is useful for attending the difficult learning outcomes because it involves a greater degree of processing about the task. It is effective to provide delayed mistakes correction during the processing of a task when it requires a long duration. If the task is like in is very lengthy, very difficult, then delayed feedback may be beneficial. But for the small learning, immediate feedback is very beneficial for correction of the task performance. This may lead to the quicker accomplishment. It affects likely to be more powerful in the task level. In the task level, immediate feedback is more beneficial. In the process level, delayed feedback may be helpful. It is useful for attaining the easy learning outcomes because it involves shorter degree of processing about the task. So immediate feedback is more helpful in case of task related feedback, and delayed feedback is more beneficial in terms of processing learning. So that is the purpose. The feedback purpose is that to fill up the gaps between present state of understanding and the expected level of performance. Discrepancy can be reduced. In case of students, it can be reduced like increased effort and use of more effective strategy and abandoning blurring and the lowering of the goals. Like to make the goals and objectives very specific. In that way, students can be benefited. In case of teachers, providing appropriate challenge and the specific goals and assisting the students in reaching them through the effective learning strategies. So feedback can be helpful in case of the teachers. Effective feedback answers 3 questions. For example, as per the stages, where I am going, what are my goals and objectives, that is the feedback process. Where I'm doing, how I am doing right now, that is the feedback, and what to next. How this feedback can enhance my future learning, that is the feed forward. Each feedback question works at 4 levels. First, the task level, how well the tasks are understood and performed. Process level, the main process needed to understand and perform the task. Process level, the way the know-hows and know-hows process, how to perform it. Self-regulation level, self-monitoring, directing, and regulating the action. And self-level, like personal evaluation and affect usually the positive outcome about the learner. Given by the Timperley and Hattie in 2007. So now the question comes how to find out the right assessment method for our own course. What type of course we are teaching, whether it's mechanical engineering, civil engineering, computer science, or social science, history, geography, whatever. So depending on the nature of the subject, domain knowledge. So the steps can be engagement with the task, engagement with the learners, belief about the significance of expanding the effort to reach the goals. Third stage can be engagement with the learner's self-conception about achieving the desired goals. Like here, we are helping them to setting the goals. Now they will start believing how practically feasible it is to achieve that goals. Next step, the next is that avoid the risk involved in the handling the challenging assignments. Then minimize the effort to reach the desired goals. To fill up those gaps, in order to fill up those gaps, to minimize the effort, minimize the time, so that how quickly you can reach to that goal. And what should be the risk level involved in dealing with the challenging task, and what should be the like if you take up the very risky job, very challenging job, and it is very difficult to materialize, that means actualize or manifest it. But if you slowly and progressively you take up the small challenging, little bit of difficulty chances with less risk involved, then it can be achievable task. Therefore, when setting the goals, long-term goal should be broken down into specific goals, short-term goals, which would be achievable with the time frame, with the adaptive strategies. But again, what is the scope and opportunities? Scope and opportunity of that task. Like we have to do again a SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat for everything. The goals, like for example, a particular kind of job. What are its scope? Like for example, IT jobs. For example, take IT jobs. with the IT booming, IT sector booming up. So what is the scope has enlarged, but at the same time, we have to evaluate what are the weaknesses or what are the weaknesses are there, what are the risk component involved, what is the possibility of getting that jobs, what is the availability. So we have to do the SWOT analysis. Strength, what are the strengths, weaknesses are there, what are then in case of learners, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, what are the opportunities available in the market, and what are the threats or the risks involved in that sector. So we have to do the SWOT analysis as well while giving the then while setting up the goal and giving the feedback towards achieving that goal. This is all about.
Good evening to all the participants, those who have undertaken for the last 6 days in this AICT sponsored short-term training program, this pedagogical approach, that particular topic area. So I am extremely thankful for all the participants, those who have very good support you have given, especially, and your feedbacks. And last few minutes, we have very good informative sessions from our Dr. Atansi Moganti ma'am also. I personally thank everyone. And here where we are going to have this validatory function, first thing is I want to thank our HOD, and personally he is the person who has organized this, and our faculty members, Mr. Bazim and so on. I can able to thank each and everyone. Now I request our beloved HOD, Dr. S. Kalipan sir, to present the vote of thanks. Sir, please, sir.
Good evening, one and all present here. I warm welcome all the participants once again for this third slot 6 days virtual AICT sponsored STTP. Our beloved chairman, Sir Sri M.V. Muthuramalingam, Director Sir Sri M.V. Sasikumar sir, our motivated advisors Sri Vasu sir, Sri Rasak sir, our honorable principal Dr. Soundarajan sir, who always guide us in many ways to improve the department and in career growth of all the faculties. Honorable and eminent speakers of AICT sponsored 6 days virtual STTP on assessment in engineering education, a pedagogical approach. Dr. B.S. Babla of NITTR Sandikar, Dr. N.C. Sivaprakash of IIC Bangalore, Dr. G. Janarthanan of NITTR Chennai, Dr. Pradeep Kumar Chaudhary of JNU New Delhi, Dr. Adalsi Moganti of IIT Kharagpur, Dr. Alfredo Scenario of University of Portugal, Dr. Kabil Kadam of IIT Bombay, Dr. Tayabi Khatun Mohammed of Mallareddy College of Engineering, Professor Kobala Krishna of GRIET Telangana, Dr. K.N. Subramania, RV College of Engineering, Bangalore, Dr. Subhatra Naik of IIT Kharagpur, Dr. Kaja Banda Navas of Satyabama Institute of Technology, Mrs. Jayasitra of Karpagam Academy of Higher Education, Coimbatore, and Dr. G. Murthy from Velamal Institute of Technology. The most esteemed participants and my dear colleagues, it's my privilege to propose vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of Mechanical Engineering Department and Velamal Institute of Technology, the entire faculty fraternity present here today, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty vote of thanks to all the speakers for taking time from your busiest schedule to grace this prestigious occasion. A big thank you for all the esteemed speakers for your inspiring presentation and assessment in engineering education. I am sure that all the participants who were present here had a lot to take away from the expert talk. We are also inspired by your active participation in the discussion sessions and throughout the sessions. Finally, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizing committees, session coordinators, and all the faculties, student volunteers, Mr. Surender and Mr. Talapula Aravind of for their support and enormous suggestions and guidance for smooth conduction of this program. I once again thank you everyone for making this program grand success and memorable one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your vote of thanks.
Thank you, Professor.